Hello, and welcome to the Collect Your Life Incorporated podcast. This is episode 3 of season 3. 3 for 3. Okay. I am your host, Janessa A. Henderson, and I'm so glad you decided to join us. So, this episode is a part of a series. I believe it's going to be 4 parts. That's what I'm feeling led by the Lord to do a 4-part series, and the first part is today. So, being a Black woman, because period. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so as you know, if you don't know, I don't know where you been. I am Black. Okay. I am proud Black woman, okay? But I'm more proud to be a kingdom woman, okay? Kingdom citizen. I'm more proud to be that, but I am, a Black woman in America. So, that being said, there are certain things that I feel need to be, feel pressed upon me to say. So let's get into it. All right, so this episode is kind of like the preliminaries of what we'll talk about. But so for all my life, I've been Black. And not understanding like the weight that's on Black women's shoulders in like the era, or like the what is it? My words have escaped me, but basically the stigma, that's it. That's the word I'm looking for. The stigma that Black women hold with within ourselves, really, if we being honest, within our own race, within other races, and just in general. So growing up, I saw my mom be the best mother ever, period. That what she could be, with what she knew. And I remember her always instilling in me the importance of an education. Like, I just remember that distinctly. And I promise I'm gonna make a tie-in with being a Black woman. And she was just like, that's something nobody ever could take from you. Her and my dad, they always instilled in us education, as far as us being Black children in America. Of course, our main thing, they taught us to have a relationship with Christ. But right after that, it was get your education. Like, it was your relationship with God. And then the next thing was education. It was drilled in us. My mom went to school for 4 years. She didn't finish. She had issues. And that alone, we may get to on another part about Black women in education, because I've had my own issues as well. So basically, education was stressed. And I knew at a young age that I was different. Like, by the color of my skin, just being the only one in the school, sometimes the only Black girl, and always getting told, like, asked why my hair was like it was, like, just people trying to touch my hair. I also remember somebody doing, so I was the only black until I got to high school in a lot of my classes. Black girl. And so it was one particular thing, somebody did something to me. It was in elementary school. They said something crazy to me. And I knew then I had to watch how I responded, because it was going to be perceived like I was the aggressor. A lot of times we're seen as the aggressive, like the angry black woman, the angry this, like we're always angry when we're expressing ourselves. And I can't remember who said this, and I will find out on the next episode, but someone says to be black is already, a trouble. But to be a woman too is a trouble. I forgot what black woman said it. I don't know, and I don't want to misquote, but some great black woman said that. And I was like, wow, that is so, true. And I'm raising a young black queen out here. And it is true, because and so this episode, I'm going to talk mainly about black women in health, with our health. So basically, all my life, I've been dealing with, having to go to the doctor or whatever. And when I was 12, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and everything. And just having to advocate for the right team for myself, or people to actually listen to me, because as women of color, and I've experienced this on so many levels, not just like on the outside looking in, like, oh, that can happen. No, I've experienced it on so many levels, as a preteen, as a teenager, as a adult, like I have experienced it firsthand. So when I first got diabetes at 12, the stigma with diabetes is that, you eat a lot of junk and you do this and you do that. But that wasn't the case for me. Mine was hereditary. They had actually put my particular sample or whatever of diabetes, whatever. They tested my blood and sent it off to make sure what type I was. They typed it and they said, oh, it's hereditary. It is type 2 or whatever. This is what they said, whatever. We got the results or whatever. So my diabetes wasn't because I was eating, in like a lot of diabetes ain't because you be eating anyway. You just eat it incorrectly. And you could be eating fruits and vegetables and just have too many carbohydrates. But anyway, so I remember endocrinologists at a young age not listening to me. I was 12, 13, and I was like, this medicine, metformin, is not working for me. My mom was telling them, and nobody was listening. So then we moved to somebody else. I actually got a black doctor, and I can't remember her name, and I hate that I can't remember her name. But she was awesome. She was the best. So she got me another medicine or whatever that worked better for me. So then I moved and had to get new doctors, or she moved or something. She moved, I think, from that practice, and then our insurance wasn't taken wherever she was or whatever the case. And so my diabetes was pretty under control when I was in high school for the most part. Then when I got to college, that's where it kind of went back haywire, because I was off at school and I wasn't being treated regularly or going, regularly. And so I had a particular doctor for my primary care. And I was telling him things about my ankles and stuff. This was after I graduated. and I had moved back home to Memphis, and I was telling him particular things. He just wasn't listening. And this was like 2018. And like it was stuff that he would say that irritated me, but I kind of just held it in. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be okay. But then when I had to go to like the ER. Because I had a lot of stress going on that summer, like literally, y'all. I had to have a stress test. I had issues going on. Like I really didn't know what was going on. So I was thankful enough, blessed to have, and I'm not saying, and this is why representation matters to me, as far as the Black woman in America, because having a Black doctor is really important. All the doctors I have are not Black, but they're advocates for Black women. So stay with me. Not all my doctors are Black. And I'm not saying I have to have a doctor that's Black at all. But when they are, it's an added bonus for me. And if you're a Black woman or a Black person, you can agree with that. Even if you're not Black and you understand the struggle of Black health, people with, dealing with Black health and people not listening to us, you understand. So, they put me in with this cardiologist, and she's Black. And she was telling me why my ankles were swollen like they were. And she was like, because you have too much insulin in your body, and it's insulin retains water, and we'll put you on a fluid pill. And she was like, I'm surprised your primary care doctor didn't do this. And he was just increasing, like, he didn't even do any tests. He literally touched my ankle, and that was it. So I went to him in May, y'all. May of 2019. I had to go to the hospital for the ER, to have the stress test, and got linked up with my cardiologist in June of 2019, the next month. So therefore, I fired him because he increased my insulin, not doing any tests on like my heart or anything like that, just increased my insulin. And she was like, this insulin is a water retention. He should have put you on X, Y, and Z. That's a simple thing. So, I fired him because I was already fed up with him anyway. And then my mother had the same doctor, and she was telling him things about her, and it irritated me that he ignored signs with her too. So that was her. But for me, when he just increased my stuff instead of actually running tests, doing an EKG, didn't do none of that. Didn't order me to go see, knowing that my family has a history of heart disease, did not try to, check these things out. So, boom. That was June of 2018. I then fired him, and I found another PCP. She was awesome and everything, and she's the reason why I have my endocrinologist I have. And again, my PCP is not Black, but she listens to Black people. Same with my endocrinologist. She's not Black, but she listens to the concerns of her patients, no matter the color. I'll say that. So, that's why I'm saying this is not you got to have a Black doctor situation, because that's not the case for me. As for me and my doctors and my care team, I have a good fit. So going back to like 2014, I had gotten married, and I was starting, the childbearing, trying to look at the childbearing stuff. And I had a particular OB who was negative Nancy. She was, because I was diabetic, she was like, you're going to be high risk, you're going to be that. She was just speaking negativity into my life, into my future. I had been going to her for a while before I got married and everything. And I had been telling her of a particular issue with my periods. But yet, she didn't do anything about it. Until one day I got loud in the office. I said, I am having heavy periods. I'm sorry if it's this getting graphic, but that's as much as I can say. But I was like, I'm having heavy periods. And then, just for me raising my voice, she ordered me to have an ultrasound. Ultrasound reveals that I have fibroids. However, I don't know this because I had to call the office. I get the medical assistant or the office manager, and they're telling me, yeah, your chart says you have fibroids. I was like, okay, so what does that mean? What are fibroids? Like, I don't know anything about this. I'm like, shouldn't my doctor be having this conversation with me? No, she didn't. Not a nurse, not anybody had a conversation with me, but the office manager telling me that I have fibroids. And oh, she wants you on birth control. But you know I'm trying to conceive. Make it make sense. So that's the first thing they try to put you on. So then I start a new job. And I met a great friend, Carmen Mott. She's now Barfield. Shout out to you, Carmen. I was asking her, I was like, I need an OB. And she was like, I go to this guy. I was like, a guy? It's like, I don't know about that. Like, I really had reservations. But y'all, I'm so glad I went to him. So my first appointment, and it's ironic that I'm recording this and talking about him now, because I actually have an appointment with him tomorrow for like a follow-up. Not a follow-up, just my regular checkup. But anyway, so I go to him. It's like night and day from the other OB. So he's nice and he's just understanding. He's listening to every need. He listens to me, and when I'm saying, well, I'm trying to conceive eventually, like I want a child, I don't want to wait. I know I'm eventually want to try. Not want to try. Well, we're trying, And so he was like, well, we can look at your fibroids. I said, I don't know. I was told I have fibroids, but I don't know what they look like, how big they are. I don't know where they are, because he was asking me, you know where they are? I said, I don't know anything. Like, she didn't sit down and tell me anything. He was like, don't worry about it. We got our own people. So I go in there. It's like the most heartfelt, it's the best experience you can have, because this is sensitive anyway. This is childbearing, and a lot of people put fibroids and fertility together, and that's not the case. So anyway, I see the fibroids. I'm like, dang, they small. Like everything, and like the sonographer's telling me everything. And so then I go in and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's it. No, my doctor explains everything to me, looks at the pictures, showing me the pictures, like, okay, so the biggest one is the size of your fingernail, and it's not in the way of any fallopian tubes. It's not causing you not to get pregnant. None of it. And all this time, I'm thinking I'm the problem, And so, fast forward to 2018, after I have the stress test that I mentioned earlier. So I had the stress test in June. My cardiologist has me on fluid pills because my ankles were getting big. So then, boom, in the fall of 2018, I get pregnant. And I go to my OB. He does an A1C. He was like, when was the last time you had A1C? I said, I don't know. Like, I knew my diabetes was not in control. I was trying to get it under control, but I couldn't get to the endocrinologist that my PCP had recommended, the one I have now, until January, because she was that highly sought off. And I didn't want to go to anybody else because I trusted my PCP. She's never steered me wrong. So, he was like, well, since you don't have an appointment until then, I'm gonna need you to get your diabetes together, because my diabetes, my A1C was like 10, 11, something like that. 11 something, 10 something. I can't remember. It was in between one of those. And that's off the charts bad, okay? If you don't know. So then, but he never once said, he was like, we got to get this down so you don't be high risk. He said, we're not claiming high risk, but he never said, oh, you're going to be high risk. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. He never said that. He never spoke that over me. And so I go throughout that first and second well, up until January. And by the time I went to the endocrinologist for the first time, my diabetes is like 7. And that is a drastic change, a drastic improvement. So I'm improving, and she's telling me, okay, we want to get it down lower, because we don't want your baby we don't want Carrie to be overweight. Because usually a lot of diabetics have overweight kids, and we don't want her to be overweight, because usually that means if she's over a certain pound, she may be already, genetically or whatever the case, marked for having a disease or diabetes or something like that. And so I go throughout pregnancy. My doctor is supportive. All my team is supportive, okay? And so, long story short, I have Carrie. At emergency, I had high blood pressure, preeclampsia, have her, I have a C-section, and Carrie's out, and I'm like, okay. And my doctor is telling the other doctor, I'm not giving her a hysterectomy. I was like, what's going on? Because he knew I wanted more kids. And he eventually told me later that my uterus had, the fibroids that were there had grew with my pregnancy. And so basically they could not close my uterus. It was so big. But my thing is, if I hadn't have spoken up for myself and gotten him as a doctor, and I had to have the other lady, I don't know what would have happened. She probably would have took knowing her, she wouldn't even listen to me and took my womb out against my wishes, and not tried to take the fibroids out or anything. So then recently I had a doctor I had to fire. It was a neurologist. I was telling him about my migraines. They had did an MRI. They said it was sinus or whatever. So I go back to him for a follow-up because I needed a different medication, one that's not making me so drowsy, like, whatever. And so he argues me down, y'all. Like, I don't know what is not just in my chart, because I actually asked for my chart records. And most times with doctors, I don't have to. Most of my doctors know that the only health issue that I have is diabetes. I only had high blood pressure while I was pregnant with Carrie, and towards the end, really. And it went right back down to its normal state. And so that's the only thing that I have besides my allergies. So all my doctors listen to me. They're advocates for my health. But he had to be changed, because it was like, you're going to tell me. And he was talking down to me like I was the scum of the earth. And like I was uneducated. Even if I wasn't educated, you still don't talk to a patient like that. I was like, I'm not going to continue this visit further. I'm going to go see somebody else. When I walked out of there, I felt so defeated. Like, I walked out to go talk to the office people, and they got me to talk to the lady who was like over patient relations. I had to get some tissue because I was in there crying because I felt so unheard. I felt so like, I'm just a number. I'm not a patient. Just some black woman that doesn't know what she's talking about. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if I have 2 degrees, 12 degrees, no degree. You disrespected me, and you thought because you're a doctor, you could talk to me any kind of way. And I said, that's not the case. And I'm looking at my chart, telling you what you said, but you're saying it's a lie. So I got my chart in my hand, and I said, it's just like I already have to fight for people to listen to me. And so the lady listened to me, and she got me in with another doctor. And y'all, she was a total opposite. She wrote down everything that I said, the issues I had. Like, I loved her ethic. Like, I loved how she wrote everything down. Like, you're dealing with this. It happens this way. It happens this, and this. And that's the type of care that we shouldn't have to fight for that, you know? And going back to my birthing experience, after I had Carrie, and even before, I mostly had great nurses and people who cared for me, except for a couple. There were some, my mom had to be mom and be like, don't let them come back in here. Because they were making my blood pressure go up even higher. They were causing more stress, and they were coming in there telling me what I couldn't, like, just going against what the doctor was telling me that to do. And it was just frustrating to me, like, y'all are not listening to me. And so my mom, I said, anytime any of these nurses don't listen to what I'm saying, or anybody doesn't listen to what I'm saying, please get them an order. And so she did. I need you to be my advocate. And I appreciate my mom for that, because it's so many times, because like after that, I've seen more recent and more close to home stories of Black women not being listened to when it becomes to our health. And I didn't experience it as much like with my doctor or anything, but I experienced it with nurses, like not listening to what I was saying. I said, I'm finna rip my skin off. Like that, whatever anesthesia, whatever medicine it was that they give, I was finna rip my skin off. And until I found the right person to give me the right thing, nobody was listening to me. Like, I couldn't hold my baby. I wanted to hold her. But I'm like, I can't sit still. Like, this is irritating me. So finally got somebody to listen to me. And it's like, but why do we have to fight? Why do we have to, when we're going to places where we're trying to get help, where we're trying to be seen, and then when we raise our voice, when we speak up for ourselves, we're looked at as the problem. And that's not just when we speak up for ourselves, not just in a doctor's office, it's in our workplaces, it's in like a store. If we just speak up for ourselves and defend ourselves, we're looked at as the bad guy. So why is that? Like, why are we still having to fight? Why do we have to fight at all? And this is the question that needs to be answered. Questions that need to be answered. But I do want every woman, Black woman, to know when it comes to your health, remember, and my nutritionist got me together. He was like, they work for you. Those doctors work for you. So if you have to fire them, fire them. If you have to find somebody else, find somebody else. There's plenty of doctors who can do what they do. And that's what I had to do with my neurologist. When he was talking crazy to me, like I was the scum of the earth, wasn't listening to a chart that he wrote with his writing, like with his initials, wasn't looking at that. But you want to argue me down and disrespect me. So make sure whenever you're in help, even like therapists, you have to find the right fit for you. Find the right care team that's going to listen. And I'm just thinking about the next time I have a baby, if the Lord sees fit, the next time I have a baby, how my OB, please stay working him, and I'm gonna have a doula, because the doula is going to do the job of making sure that I am cared for properly after, during and afterwards. And I see why people have, even with a great OB, I see why people have a doula. Like, I understand why. And it makes total sense. But make sure, as you go through life as a Black woman, or just as a Black person, make sure you're advocating for yourself in these doctor's offices. Make sure that you're getting a second opinion, and make sure you understand you can get your doctor's notes. Firstly, you paying for it. You can get every record accessible to you, and it's supposed to be free. Whatever the doctor writes down, you can get a printout of your summary. So make sure you're advocating, make sure you're taking care of yourself, and please don't let anybody treat you like a second-class citizen. If you feel a certain type of way, get you a second opinion. If I hadn't got a second opinion about my fibroids, I would have been just like, oh, I can't have kids. I can't do this. And fibroids in my case, and fertility had nothing to do with each other. They weren't in the way of a fallopian tube. They weren't blocking anything at all. So me getting pregnant had nothing to do with me. So please understand to advocate for yourself. And if somebody won't listen, go to somebody else. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of being a Black woman. Basically, Black maternal health, and just being Black with healthcare, going to the doctor. I guess that's the title we can say. But hopefully this helped you as it helped me. And we'll see you on the next time for part 2.